freaking first cut. Golly.
Welcome to the First Cut Podcast. I'm Rick Gehman, and this is your recap episode for this week's Mexico Open. Joining me to break it all down, Patrick McDonald is here. Patrick, good day to you.
Good day to you guys. Mark, you're rocking a nice tan. The weather looked nice out there in Mexico.
It is nice. Buenos tardes, gentlemen.
That's Mark Immelman coming to us straight from Mexico. Greg DuCharme rounds out our group for this evening. Greg, good to have you.
Oh, good to be here, gentlemen. Quite a week, as it always seems to be. Mark, nice to see you again. I'm a little jealous, a little envious of that weather. We've been getting an entire weekend full of rain up here in Connecticut. So it was nice to kind of get away in my mind and get down to Mexico. But I would rather have been physically there like Mark.
Mark, let's start with your boots on the ground here. Set the scene for us as we enter this Sunday filled with birdies. The scoring average was the best it was all week long. What led to the ability to go so low today?
I think it was a culmination of the golf course just being in immaculate shape. I mean, you barely drew a bad lie ever. If you did, it was certainly something you'd turn your eyes up at. And the greens were at a speed where you weren't really afraid of balls getting away from you. They were receptive enough where the ball would dig in upon landing and release a little bit, but you could pretty well gauge how far the ball was going to travel. And then you're getting good lies, and the wind was consistently out of one direction all of the time. So as soon as you start to give these guys of this sort of skill, conditions where they can kind of predict how far the ball's going to go, where it's likely to land. If they do hit an errant shot, they're not getting too much trouble unless they're in some sort of a penalty area. And you know they're going to have at it. And the winds were just enough to kind of grab your attention. I would say into the wind, maybe a club and a half or so to bear in mind. Downwind was helping some. And then over the final 9 holes, you got 3 par 5s. And, with that sort of situation and these guys and all their power, it's going to be open season. So wonderful golf course, great shape. You know it's going to score well. And thankfully for the fans here and the sponsors and all the folks in television, you had 2 titans of the game going at it.
We did have 2 titans of the game going at it, but Patrick, I came on here last night and I built this up like I was Don King. It was going to be a heavyweight bout. It was going to be haymaker, counterpunch, uppercut. It was going to be a Rocky-esque battle to the death. I think I might have oversold it. We'll get to how it played out, but it was a little bit more of a pillow fight.
I believe the old saying goes, it's tough to follow up a great round with another one. Confucius possibly said that back in the day. And yeah, you kind of saw that today. Some of the guys in the final group were just a hair off, I think, speed-wise on the greens, irons, distance-wise with their irons too, especially coming down the stretch as well. So just being a hair off, even though the golf course was very accessible and giving up birdies, being a hair off on the PGA Tour, you kind of see it.
Very much a deja vu podium. We'll talk about how it broke out in a second, but let's set the stage a little bit here because there were some early movers here. Greg and Patrick Rodgers. I love to see this. Thursday, 70, Friday, 69, Saturday, 68, Sunday, 64. That's getting better each and every round for someone that I think a lot of us thought was going to have a chance this week. Still looking for that first PGA Tour victory, going to a course that should set up well for him. A little slow out of the gates, but he finished strong.
He did finish strong. And what I liked the most, and again, I was a little disappointed or a little worried maybe that what we've been seeing the last couple of weeks out of Patrick Rodgers was more on the flash in the pan side. Whenever I see somebody make a big stride somewhere in one particular area of their game, for Patrick Rodgers, for instance, throughout most of his career, iron play has been the thing that held him back. Always a wonderful driver of the ball, a wonderful putter as well. Iron play has kind of held him back a little bit. And, over the past 3 to 4 weeks, his iron play has really excelled. At least for portions of tournaments. And then this week, he loses strokes. He only hits 11 of 18 greens the first day, 8 of 18 greens on Saturday. And so it was kind of, well, maybe that was all just a flash in the pan. But then he comes out today and hits 15 greens and gains 3 strokes approaching the green, which was second in the field for the day. So I was really impressed with that. And it makes me feel a lot better about him going forward.
Up 20 spots and finished in a tie for 10th. Mark, speaking of a tie for 10th, I'm going to use Alejandro Tosti to point out something that I think is very, very important. So he goes out, he shoots a Sunday 64, that's 7 under par, and gets himself into that tie for 10th. Now that tie for 10th is very, very valuable most weeks on the PGA Tour, but it is especially valuable this week because he is now in the Wells Fargo Championship, a $20 million purse. So not only is it playing well, but if you play well at the right time, the event before a big one, you can even get yourself into a more valuable position.
Yeah, it's as our Patrick would call it, a desi. It's a big deal next week at a good golf course, and that is kind of emblematic to me what happened this week for Alejandro, and especially with a good round today, what the tour means to me. You know, you're playing against the best. You have to bring your best stuff, and if you manage to find it at the right time, you could change your life. You could change your career. And here's a young man who was a good college player, University of Florida, highly touted from Argentina. I remember watching him as a junior way back. And now after kind of playing on some of the smaller tours around the place, now you're going in the big leagues next week. Now you're lining up against the PGA Tour's Glitterati. And who knows, with coming off here with 64, Quail Hollow is a big golf course. It's not the same as this place. Maybe he can continue the form and really get this 2023 season for him going in the right direction.
Great note from producer Josh here. Coming into this week, he had made only $31,995. So $32K on tour coming into this week. Well, did plenty of good work this week, $180,000, and then another crack at it next week in an even larger purse for Alejandro Tosti. All right, Patrick. I'm looking at this final group. I'm gonna save the deja vu podium boys for a second. I'm gonna go to Akshay Bhatia. Akshay gets into the final group, gets a chance to look Tony Finau and Jon Rahm right in the eye after shooting a Saturday 63, follows it up with a Sunday 70. Out in 34, in 36, didn't have the momentum, never made 2 birdies in a row, just didn't have the good stuff this week or this day.
He did look pretty sharp for all things considered early on. 2 early birdies in the first 6 holes. I don't think you could have, if you told him that last night, he would have taken it in a heartbeat, in my opinion. But then you let 7 slip by, which is a hole these guys were birdieing. And then around the turn, it got kind of messy there without taking advantage of the par 5 12th as well. And then, kind of salvaged his round, got that 4th place finish with a couple birdies at the end. But, I think it was said on the broadcast yesterday that Brandon Wu might have a bit of an advantage not playing alongside Rahm and Finau and being in the penultimate pairing or a group. But I think long-term, this is going to be huge for Akshay, knowing he can kind of look these guys in the eye. He belongs with these guys. And we've kind of seen from him in his very young career, he's only 21 still, what kind of golf courses he likes. I mean, you look at the runner-up in Puerto Rico, he won in the Bahamas on the Korn Ferry Tour, and you throw this golf course in it as well. So you get these Paspalum greens. He just implemented aim point with, Harry Hall told him to do it, and it looked pretty good through the first 63-ish holes. Didn't make a ton today, but yeah, this is a kid who's going to more than likely be a multiple-time winner on the PGA Tour. And if he had somehow gotten past Rahm and Finau, I think Zach Johnson should have just put him on the Ryder Cup team.
Oh, golly. Settle down. Settle. Does he pass your eye test, apparently?
Yeah, he does. He does. He does.
Okay.
Very nice. Yeah.
All lefties do. All lefties do.
If I would have known, Greg, all it took was a little bit of aim point to go from like 180th on tour in strokes game putting to leading the field. That'd be pretty good. But I do think that when you look at Akshay, Now Greg with special temporary membership status, he's going to be able to accept an unlimited number of sponsors exemptions. He will not be in the playoffs unless he wins, which would have him become a full-time PGA Tour member. But we're going to see a lot more of them. There's still, I mean, believe it or not, I know John Rahm has already broken the money record or whatever, but there is a lot of season left and a lot of valuable starts coming for Akshay.
Yeah, and you start to think about what happens in the summertime, and I think you're going to start to see a lot more events where Akshay can become a real factor. You think about John Deere Classic and 3M Open and Rocket Mortgage, and although those aren't Paspalum tropical golf courses, I think they still give a player like Akshay a legitimate chance. And I think those will be fields that he can really contend and compete with, and they'll have an opportunity to get more and more comfortable. And I think he did show a couple things. He showed he can make putts. He did it today. It was like today he wasn't able to make the birdie opportunities that he had, but he was able to save some of the longer par putts that he had to, and he couldn't quite get on the right cadence to build the momentum. Just a little bit off, but all in all, I think he has to walk away being 21 years old with a lot of confidence after this week.
Oh, Greg, no doubt. What you say there is so well founded to me. And I didn't have the last group, but you know what's going on. And he had surged up the leaderboard some there with a quick start, and then through that middle portion of the golf course where it was sort of there to be taken by the scruff of the neck when you have holes like 8, 9, 10 was a brute, all of them into the wind. Then you've got 11, the little par 3, and then that par 5. You play that stretch of holes and even, and you pick up strokes. And through there, you could say he spilled a few with the bogey on 9, the bogey on 10, and then the bogey on the other par 3. So that was sort of where some of that final group gravity set in. It's like, oh my goodness, I'm close, I could win this thing, and your mind starts going fast. Now I don't know if that was the case with Akshay, but it's the kind of situation where he will look at this and go, what a great day, what an awesome tournament. I'm doing my career worlds of favors, but now I was alongside these 2 stars, really legitimate stars. I hung around for a while. I finished with a bit of a bang birdie there to get myself into, I think it was 4th, but there's a lot to be learned, and now he knows what he's going to feel like when he gets in that situation again, if he does, and I feel like he'll be better equipped for it. So look, he's got the tools. Now he's building up that mental experience, that emotional, sensation of what happens under pressure. And I feel like this is going to be a real feather in his cap.
18 under par for Akshay, solo 4th. Mark, I'm actually just going to bounce this right back to you because a lot of what you said about Akshay, I think, could have been said about Brandon Wu getting off to a hot start. Wu was 5 under through 7, including an eagle on 6, maybe looking up at the leaderboard and realizing, oh my gosh, I'm tied for the lead. I can actually win this thing before it goes a little bit sideways with a bogey on 8 and a double on 10. He still is able to put together a phenomenal week to earn lots of money and lots of FedEx Cup points. I just thought it was a lot of the things you were describing, Akshay, could have been said here.
Yeah, a couple things. I had his group today, and it was fun to watch the start. I was out there watching him play, and he was playing free. And then when you made that turn back into the wind, it looked to me like he was playing a little golf swing. He hit a tee shot down 8 that was hugging the waterline down the right and was just okay. Then he fans a fade shot up into the breeze that stands up and lands in the front right bunker, and he makes bogey from there. And then 10, he rinses the tee shot. And the one thing about that sort of pulled across cut that he hits, it kind of noses up into the wind and then gets absolutely whacked. The wind gets hard. And he looked to me after that he was playing a whole bunch of golf swing, making a lot of practice swings, taking a lot of time, trying to get the shaft shallower on the way down to get the ball spinning a little bit less. It was kind of tough, but credit to the man. He makes 2 quick birdies after the misstep there on 10. And then I thought, whoa, all bets are off. And he gets a bad break on the par 5, horrid lie left of the fairway, the 14th. And from there, sort of, you felt like the air came out of the balloon a little bit when he didn't make birdie there. Because if he did, who knows? And then he's even closer. And then to finish with 6 on the last, that was kind of just how the final few holes went. But look, 66, 63 here last year. Once again, had a big weekend. He's comfortable around this place. He's played well at Punta Cana, so he likes Paspalum. It's an experience for me, from my opinion, what I saw today, where he'll go, okay, now I really know what I've got to do when I'm in contention. because last year's second, he was kind of out of it and just had that banner final round of 63 to kind of post.
It'll be a podium for Brandon Wu. And Patrick, the podium looks a lot like last year's. Jon Rahm, Tony Finau, Brandon Wu. We've only played 2 years of this event. Has the Mexico Open, Vidanta Vallarta, has it entered the conversation for the stickiest course history on tour? It has to be. Same 3 guys at every single version of this event.
Is 8 rounds too small of a sample size for you, Rick? No.
Plenty.
What about this history? The first year at this course, the world number 2 won. In this year, the second year, the world number 1 came in second. So the top names always rise to the occasion at Vidanta. I
actually did see someone, Patrick, on Twitter, obviously, where people go to complain, that if Jon Rahm were to have won this, he did not. Spoiler alert, he did not win this. That we would have to put an asterisk next to it because this was not a big boy event. This was only the Mexico Open. So apparently you only get credit for majors when you win them. I think I was tagged in that tweet with you. And I was like, what the hell is this guy talking about? And there's people on Twitter right now, like calling Tony Finau like the king of these non-designated events. Like, newsflash, these non-designated events kind of just came around this year. This whole schedule is brand new. But I digress. It's a tough scene. Now, how about this one? Greg, Jon Rahm. You get the big boy. Jon Rahm, 4 under 67. However, he started 2 shots behind Tony Finau and finished 3 shots behind Tony Finau. Birdies on 6 and 7. Birdies on 13 and 15. He gave one back on 17. He got that closing birdie on 18. It was too little, too late. How would you assess Rahm's day and Rahm's week?
I would assess it. Well, look, he kind of defines the week with yesterday's round, right? The course record 61. But what I find really interesting about these 2 days and these 2 rounds is they're similar in a lot of ways. He just made a lot of putts yesterday and didn't make them today. Now, when you hit the ball to 30 feet all the time, which Jon Rahm did today, I mean, these are not poor shots. Some maybe a little less than, but there's nothing egregious about this, right? There's no meltdown. There's no critical error. It's just he didn't get it close enough. He didn't give himself really good looks for birdie. And all of a sudden, when those putts don't fall, you make your birdies on, pretty much the par 5s. Now, the blunders, not taking advantage of 12 and 14 would be, those would be the mistakes. And ultimately, if he does that, he puts himself right in the mix of this tournament. So he's not far off. A couple putts go that went yesterday, and all of a sudden, he's right there with Finau, and this tournament down the stretch really changes. So I think he is probably ruined more than anything else. The 5s at 12 and 14, but this is what we talked about last night, right? You never go with the guy who gets into the final group because they shot 61 and made 156 feet of putts, right? It's very hard to replicate. And he replicated that round without the putts going in. And so, look, I think all in all, it's a high quality week. He played a lot of really good golf. He made just a couple more mistakes than Tony Finau in the early rounds, especially. But it's nothing egregious. It's these little tiny, not getting up and down from just short of the green on one of the par 5s. He did on Thursday twice. These, I'm not going to call them easy shots, but more routine, basic shots from the fairway where they're 6 feet instead of 3 feet, and all of a sudden it's a bogey instead of a par, or he doesn't give himself a birdie putt on a couple of the par 5s early in the week. And that's ultimately what cost him. Tony Finau did a much better job in the first 3 days on the par 5s than Jon Rahm.
Greg, I would add to that. I was gobsmacked at the number of missed clubs he and Adam Hayes had. It's like they were misreading winds. He had balls that were on line that seemed well struck, that would come up well short of the target, well long, and it happened more often than not. And the only day it seemed like I was out there on the call for that 61 yesterday, it seemed to me like he was decisive. Every club they pulled was the right club. He seemed like there was only once, it was on 16 where it was between clubs, but he pulled the right club all the time. And then by his own admission, he said in round one, where it was over par early, he felt like he misjudged a number of second shots, and they were either long or short with the iron game. And to me, the iron game was always his calling card. And then he figured it out yesterday. And then once again today, they were misclubbing a lot. And he was hitting shots where he was kind of staring the thing down and would miss its number. And so that was curious. And it's something that I feel like maybe they'll go and look at. He's got a week off. He's not playing Wells Fargo, and just kind of line themselves up now for a major championship charge here as we were leading to the PGA. Because when you get to those conditions, left and right control is one thing, but distance control is another. And the more important the event and the firmer the conditions and all that kind of stuff, the more important it is to hit the ball the right distance. And he was missing a bunch with the irons.
He did say, Mark, on the broadcast, can I get one club right? Can I get one number or something along those lines?
Yeah.
So he was definitely feeling that aspect too.
There was one other thing that I don't know if I dreamt this or not, so I've got to open this up to the group. So let me go back. Mark, when you win the Masters, do you donate a club, one of the clubs from your bag, to the club?
That is the tradition, yes.
Okay. So it is my understanding, and I think I gathered this from something I heard on PGA Tour Live on Thursday, and then also putting all of this together. I believe, from my understanding, Jon Rahm donated his 8-iron after his Masters victory. And on Thursday, Patrick, I don't know if you were sick enough watching this on Thursday morning, he hit like back-to-back 8-irons early in that round. They were way off, and he said something like, this isn't right, or like, we got to get a new one, or so whatever 8-iron they replaced it with, the specs he was not super thrilled with. And it just kind of goes like, it seemed to be like just club or number issues all week long. Oh, by the way, he still finished second.
Yeah, I heard on Sunday that he actually donated his entire iron set. So maybe
Really?
that's why. No, I'm joking.
Oh, okay. That's a joke. Dang, that was over my head. Sorry.
But no, like to Mark's point, he definitely misclubbed a ton of times. It was completely, uncharacteristic for that duo. You saw it there on 17 to end the round there today. He thought he was all over it, and he was like a good club short. They went over to Colt. He's like, I can't believe he just tried to hit a 6-iron there. Like that needed to be a 5 all day. So yeah, obviously the 8-iron on Thursday. Personally, I did not catch the coverage. I was off on Thursday, so I enjoyed my time away. Went to the beach. But, yeah, I mean, it panned out throughout the week. But I know early in the week, we were talking about, Greg said he just didn't, get the job done early. Hit one in the water on 9, the par 3 as well. That's 2 strokes right there. You can't really get back, especially when, Tony Finau's just teed a green this place to death.
Speaking of Hunky Tony, he goes out and shoots a Sunday 66. That is 5 under and plenty good enough to become your 2023 Mexico Open champion. Tony Finau, rounds of 65, 64, 65, 66. Greg, we talked about it last night. I'm happy to announce he objectively played the best golf all week, right? I mean, he was phenomenal from tee to green. He rolled the rock. He did not have one insane round with a lot of win luck or Tony Finau was the best player this week. It wasn't particularly close, though some guys made it interesting, and Tony Finau gets another victory.
Yeah, I think he did a couple things really well. He drove it better than he's been driving it this year, which I think really separated himself. And that allows him to lead the field in tee to green, right? And then you think about what happens on the greens, and this is also where it's been a little hit or miss for him this year. And this week, it wasn't really hit or miss. He had an off day on Saturday, But what he still shoots 6 under yesterday. So again, you look at this golf course, and we joked yesterday, this is a par 66. He goes out and shoots even par today. And I think he did a really good job of adding what I called all week the bonus birdies. Right? You get a birdie at number 1, a birdie at number 5. All of a sudden, you get through 5 holes under par, and you got 6 and 7 coming up, then you're in great shape. You're in phenomenal shape with the 3 par 5s remaining on the second side. You still got all 4 ahead of you, and he's at 2 under already, and he's leading by this point. So it removes a lot of the pressure. But what I thought was really cool about today's round, and probably the most notable takeaway for me, was when things got a little difficult. So he gets to number 6, hits his second shot into the greenside bunker. It gets an awkward lie and leaves it in the bunker. And that's kind of where things could get really nervy. He doesn't get that up, and he makes 6 on a par 5. That becomes a big problem, and he gets it up and down. So he makes 5, feels like a bogey, but makes 5, takes care of 7. And then on 8, he's in real trouble again. And now, Brandon Wu is in the picture. John Rahm is much more in the hunt. And this thing, he starts to open this up to the field if he doesn't convert both of those up and downs. And he holds it from off the green. And then from there, he's back in. I can just cruise. I can rely on my ball striking, which today, probably more than any other day, he had to lean on a short game, and was able to. He was 6 for 6 in scrambling. So best tee to green player all week long. But I think today the key to actually sealing up the victory was a short game.
Yeah, and I think, Mark, that's a really good point that Greg makes. There were moments where the door was creaking open a bit. Maybe it was John Rahm, maybe it was Brandon Wu. But throughout, Tony looked stoic. He looked in control. He took the bad breaks or the spots of bother in stride and took his medicine when he needed to. And it seemed, as I know this is not stress-free, but he made it kind of feel a little stress-free today just by watching him out there, watching his play, watching his demeanor. I thought he did a very just all-around solid job.
Yeah, Tony, the tournament winner, showed up. The guy who we all criticized, or not necessarily me, but some of us criticized when he wouldn't close events out, because what he's learned to do ever since that little run he went on midway through last year was make putts, make saves that mattered. Because we know he's got the length to make his share of birdies. But when you're coming down the stretch, you hit a poor shot, gets gusted by the wind or whatever, you miss a green, then you have to make one of those 4, 5, 6 foot putts to not just keep the lead score-wise, but to maintain your own momentum. Because if you miss one putt coming down the stretch, ordinarily you'll get bowled over by a handful of guys. And he made a number of putts yesterday from that 5-foot range. He made a couple beauties today that slammed the door basically on the competition. And I want to point to that up and down out of the greenside bunker, which was not easy on 16. Third to last hole. It's not nip and tuck, but if he makes a mistake there, then you never know with a par 5 on 18. Makes the beautiful save there. He made another save back on the other par 3. So it's what he's learned to do. He's figured out to play around the greens. He's always been a tremendous ball striker. No one can argue that. But now, just like Tiger, just like the guys that win, Jordan Spieth and company, they make those putts when they need to. And so as a result, you're able to keep the score intact and hold the momentum.
That momentum leads Tony Finau to his 6th career PGA Tour victory. But Patrick, maybe more importantly, his 4th win in his last 19 starts. I don't particularly care what they are. Technically, they are the 3M Open, the Rocket Mortgage, Houston, and here in Mexico. 4 in 19 is stellar stuff.
Yeah, following the 5-year drought, 142 starts. He has 5 in his last 41. So 1 in about every 8 since the summer of 2021, which is pretty damn good. And it's really just, look, some of these guys just mature at different ages. We saw it with Phil Mickelson, right? When he won major championships, he wasn't until 33 when he won his first. I believe Finau's around that age right now. So this day and age, with more and more young talent coming out, like a Bhatia, and Jordan Spieth winning so many major championships when he was young, Justin Thomas when he was young, Colin Morikawa, it is easy to criticize someone who's not getting the job done right away. It is. I mean, we're a take industry.
Did you say
you could
5?
argue.
Did you say 5 and 41?
Yeah.
It's like 12%.
Yeah, pretty good.
That's really good. Yeah.
1 in every 8. Yeah.
Wow.
After not being able to close. But
Yikes.
Today was really just a masterclass of how to play with a lead. I mean, when you just put so much pressure on your opponents from tee to green, they can't make a mistake. And if they do, you pick up those bonus birdies, like Greg said. And, the 1 on 8 was just huge. That par save where he didn't really hit a great bunker shot, 18 feet from off the green. He knocks it in right when Brandon Wu was kind of getting going. John Rahm was right there as well, but it was extremely impressive. And then you look at yesterday as well, 65. I don't think he made a putt outside 5 feet at all, which just goes to show you how good he was from tee to green. So in this maturation process, even though it is a bit later than his peers, the next step is obviously major championships. And with one on, the horizon here at Oak Hill, a long golf course where, his strength and his tee to green acumen will be able to rise. And he does have the experience. He has a top 5 in each of the major championships already. He's been in the final group before. You think about Shinnecock Hills when, him and Daniel Berger kind of blitzed the field there on Saturday, and we're in that final group. So yeah, it does seem like that. He's the 4th multiple time winner this year, but he doesn't really get in that kind of crew with Rahm, Scheffler, Max Homa as well, who's won the, big events like the Genesis Invitational and the Wells Fargo as well. So I'm with you, Rick. I don't care what events they are. Winning's pretty damn tough on the PGA Tour. And I think Finau's proven on the big stages that he can kind of compete and stick with these guys, with the majors on the horizon.
As my ode to Kyle Porter, I'm going to do it because I feel after your observation there that Kyle would do this. All right, Max Homa or Tony Finau, who's a better player and who has the bigger career? Because that's how Kyle rolls. So what's your answer to that question?
I'll take Max.
It's a good question. I'll take Tony.
Okay,
I'll take Tony too. I'm with you, Greg.
Patrick.
I think. Well, go ahead, Patrick.
I think I would go with Max.
Split decision.
See, I think Max has a bigger step to make in the big events, in the majors, where Tony, as Patrick just mentioned, he's shown that he can be a factor in them. Has he shown he can win them yet? No, but I think he has shown more ability in big events, more contention in big events. And by big, I'm talking about majors, right? Because Max Homa has played great in big events, just not majors. So when we get to that level, I think Tony's shown the ability, and the next step is just crossing that finish line and getting a win. And I really think he can.
And he's got a weapon with his power. I mean, no one has acknowledged those 2 freaking rocket 3-irons he hit into the 10th green, which was playing just 500 yards in the card, playing like 540 into that wind. And he smashed 3-iron down there and hit a 3-iron in the heart of the green. There are less than that many guys in the world's game that can do that sort of thing. And he's one of them. And when you get to the big events, that's what you got to sometimes do. He's super accurate off the tee. He drives it on a string. He's got that new ball that he tees the thing way down with a driver and hits his flat fade. He's got a beautiful trajectory on the irons, a little draw that he hits, and he's figured out what he does around the greens. And I must say this, I don't know what the numbers say, but whenever I've called him, the guy is dynamite from the greenside bunkers. And the one thing I learned from Gary Player was on Sundays at majors, they tuck holes behind bunkers. So if you're going to play offense, you've got to be able to make saves from the sand. And Tony out of the sand is stout. So I'm kind of leaning towards Tony Finau now.
I will say, Tony does not get enough credit for. I mean, he was never just like a one skill guy. He always had the distance. He was always, but he has really become a solid all around player. The short game's phenomenal. He can roll the rock. I will say this, and Patrick, this is my argument for Max Homa is that Honestly, the most likely outcome is that neither of these two guys ever win a major. That's the most likely outcome.
Wow, that's so sad.
But it's true.
I know.
And I would say that about a lot of guys, right? It's not just these two that fall.
There's only 4 of them a year.
Yeah, only
There's
4.
only 4 a year, and there's a lot of good guys. So the most likely outcome is neither of these guys ever win a major championship. They both have 6 wins right now, which is why this is such a great comp, Mark. Hat tip to you. Patrick, right now, Max Homa's resume smashes Tony Finau's resume.
In the win department.
What else do we care about?
Well, Wikipedia
wait,
top
wait.
10s and majors and whatnot.
I thought this show cares about strokes gained. I'm hearing strokes gained
and podiums. I'm generating some convo here.
I like since I am in the Max camp as well. I like his ability to rise to the occasion a little bit more. Finau's wins have kind of been, he's out in front. Houston, he was out in front. Rocket Mortgage was a record-setting performance. This week he was out in front as well. Max, when he's in it, he has proven to be able to hold putts when it matters. You think about the iron shot, the 4-iron on 16 at Torrey Pines, that par 3, making that 15-footer after Colin Morikawa poured one on top of him. Huge. So I think that's why I give the nod to Max, because he's proven it a bit more, I think, down the stretch with the putter.
I'm not gonna punish Tony Finau, Greg, for boat racing the field and winning from too far out in front. I'm not gonna punish him for that.
It's the Scotty Scheffler argument. When's the last time he made a clutch putt?
Yeah.
He makes them Thursday, Friday, and Saturday is when he makes them. I will say this though, Greg, in our sample size of 1, these two have battled in the playoff, and Max Homa won it.
See, that was part of the learning curve for Tony Finau. Okay, that was a big part of it, because he would, and I was hard on Tony then. He had plenty of opportunities to win that golf tournament and let the moment slide, and he's figured out how to not let the moment slide. And this is the thing about when you start boat racing a field, right? Like we joke, when's the last time he made a clutch putt? But it just cracks me up.
Thursday and Friday.
But
something to think about,
When Xander Schauffele wins chasing, the question is, well, when's he going to win with the lead? That's like the next step. And so I love his ability to play with a lead. I do think that's a really difficult skill, something he has figured out, something Max Homa helped him with back at the Genesis there. And also, Tony Finau has 10 times more top 10s in majors. And I'm a big yellow square guy on the Wikipedia page. And Tony is boat racing Max in that category right now.
I do want to say one more thing too, because winning these big events is certainly, you need physical skill, but you need mental and emotional acumen as well. And Tony Finau mentioned to me, like when he decided to bring his family on the road last year, he didn't play very well initially and got criticized heavily. And I'm certain also by guys on this show criticized him for making the decision. But, he just stuck to his guns. Now he's out there, he's got the family, and he's got life really in perspective. And the guy played this par 3 course just out of my hotel here. There's 10 holes here every night. So it speaks to how he's golf Tony on the golf course. His dad, fun Tony over here, and apparently loves golf too, because I got to tell you, after I've played 18 holes, PGA Tour tournament pressure, then to go and play 10 holes on a par 3 course, I'd be like, not on your life. But this guy must love it, and he loves being around his family. So he's got that emotional ease about him, because he's got that side of life taken care of.
He is golf Tony. He is dad Tony. He is very hunky Tony, and he is your 2023 Mexico Open champion. Gentlemen, we will recap our best bets. We will recap, Mark, our one and done selections. And we will do that after a quick word.
Get breaking news,
Big news coming out of the NFL today.
highlights, and instant reaction.
The largest final round comeback in tour championship history. We're down to the final four.
I just want to take time to analyze greatness.
Talk winners and losers with a guy who's already a big winner.
CBS Sports HQ. It's all sports all day long.
And we're back. I'm actually looking at the outline. I could skip that. Does anybody want to talk about Taylor Gooch winning Live?
No.
Nope.
The Gooch is loose. I will say about Taylor Gooch, the news kind of resurfaced about the USGA and changing F11 qualifying criteria, which is
that is the nerdiest thing you have ever said.
Which is the players who qualify for the Tour Championship get into the U.S. Open.
Right.
But this year it was those who qualify and are eligible. So
Right.
Taylor Gooch was the odd man out because he was deemed ineligible.
The only one, by the way.
I don't understand why this news is coming to life now when in February we knew about it. I guess just because he's won back-to-back tournaments. But there's that. He has to play well at the PGA Championship to most likely get back inside the top 60 in the world to get in the U.S. Open because he's not doing sectional qualifying.
Gooch goes back-to-back. I flipped it on for it was on tape delay, and they have an opportunity. I don't want to do this right now. They have an opportunity, and they blow it every time. Okay, let's recap our best bets. That's usually how we always have an opportunity, and we blow it every time. Could be the name of our best bets segment and our wagers here. But we did an okay job this week. Patrick, you got on the board with a plus 250. Joseph Bramlett top 20, in which you didn't give him enough credit. You could have gone to top 10 here.
Yeah, we're kind of just zeroing in on this eye test model, Rick. And Joseph Bramlett was this week's case study, and it proved to be a fruitful one. So very excited about the progress we're making.
How about this one here, Greg? Kyle won his matchup. It was Tony Finau plus 190 over John Rahm. Imagine a scenario where you have the guy who wins over the guy who finishes second. It's usually the other way around. It's usually John Rahm over Tony Finau. You beat everybody in the field except for the guy who won.
Yeah, this one takes guts. I give a lot of props to Kyle for taking that one. And look, it's a great number for Tony Finau to beat one guy. It's just that one guy's John Rahm, right? He's won 4 times this year. The defending champion won the Masters as well. I understand the difficulty, but I love the guts, and I'm glad it paid off for him.
I got Emiliano Grillo over Alex Smalley. Dylan Wu top 30. Mark, you got a Sunday scary here.
Yeah,
Andrew Putnam lost on Sunday to Steven Yeager by 5 strokes and finished the event 1 shot behind. That's the Sunday scaries.
Didn't he bogey 2 of his last 3 holes as well? Putnam,
He
that is.
did, and then he parred 18, which is the easiest hole on the golf course. So yeah, he lost a ton of strokes to the field over his last 3 holes.
Yeah, and I had Rahm for an outright. After that 61, I'm like, wow, he's looking good. But I was a bit concerned because there's always that equilibrium, where you have this outlying round, and then there's going to be some regression to stroke average. And sadly, that happened a little bit. I was disappointed with Sean O'Hare. I really was. He had 6 under or something in the first round. And I saw him, honestly, at the bar that evening when I sent you the video, Rick. And I was like, nice round, big guy. This is looking good for me. And the next day I see him with the bags being packed. And I was like, I actually didn't know what to say to them. I'm like, really? You missed the cut somehow?
Maybe he had too many drinks at that bar, Mark.
Yeah, sorry, I guess. So Sean O'Hare missing the top 40 was that one I'm also disappointed about.
Our best bets, which included 2 different NFL draft selections, and which one of them was our only winner. So I had Augusto Nunez top 40. He finished 69th by himself. Benny On being top South Korean fell to SH Kim.
Yeah. Did you see what Kim did today? He shot 64 in the final round to beat Ben On.
He did. Birdied 14, 15, and 16. Benny On, finished 2 shots behind him. You got pretty unlucky here, Mark.
I was looking okay for a while. Yeah, was looking okay.
Mark, you're starting to sound like a real gambler. I like it.
It sounds like he's reeling you back in.
Yeah.
Kyle told us that Will Anderson would go second overall, but that did not happen because somebody tell me what actually did happen.
He went third. The Texans, they easily could have picked him second and then CJ Stroud third, but
because they did trade up.
They had back-to-back picks.
So it didn't even really matter what order it went in.
tough.
Man.
That kind of stinks.
Tough.
Patrick,
if you're in a fantasy draft, like a snake draft, and you have back-to-back picks, do you put any? You're taking two. It doesn't matter what order they are, right? I mean, I do it alphabetically.
That's the weirdest way to
That
do it.
is Texans might have done that by first name. So maybe.
Yeah, first name alphabetized.
Patrick, you did indeed. You are now an NFL draft tout, and you have gotten us on the board because you told us on Tuesday afternoon, like a fortune teller that you are, that the Steelers, the Pittsburgh Steelers, would draft an offensive lineman with their first pick at plus 135. And sure enough, they drafted an offensive lineman whose name I do not know because, but because it's green on the sheet, I'm going to assume it happened.
Yeah, dual threat's all the rave in that NFL when you think about quarterbacks. So I figured I'd dip my toes in golf and football. Just made way too much sense. I don't want to, kind of talk down on the NFL boys at CBS and their mock drafts. But if you need an insider for the Pittsburgh Steelers, my services, my number, they're all available.
Broderick Jones out of Georgia.
Big old boy. Yep.
6'5", 311.
Ooh.
His hands are 10 5/8 inches.
Sure.
His arms, 34 3/4. Is that the length of his arms? Or the width or the circumference of his biceps?
Probably
There's no
circumference of his biceps.
Speaking of big old boys from Georgia, so I'm sitting there and I'm like, right, Falcons with the 8th pick, and Jalen Carter is still on the board, and I'm like, it's got to happen. It's got to happen. No, it didn't happen. They're the running back from Texas.
Where did Jalen Carter end up going, Mark?
He went in the following round to your freaking team, and I was so aggravated. Oh, geez.
I nipped you in the draft, and I'm gonna nip you here in the one and done in a second. We're gonna get there.
So goodness.
Big week for me. All right, one and done. I've been waiting all show for this one. So let's start.
Sorry, Greg. 2.5 million behind.
I'm sorry, Greg. We have to start at the bottom, and that is
hit me.
That is where you are. You had Ches Reavie, which on Thursday was great.
I tell you, I legitimately felt really strong about Ches Reavie. I wasn't going to take Rahm, obviously. I'm saving him for something. I'm also saving Tony Finau, who I loved heading into this week. I decided to save him, which could still be the right choice, but it's highly doubtful at this point. So yeah, I went down to the next obvious choice, Ches Reavie, on a heater coming in. I loved where he was. I did. I said, hey, I'm just going to go with it. And I'm still in the cellar.
I'll tell you what, on Thursday, I was like, holy crap. I think I kind of made fun of Greg for that pick. And now here he's going to.
Hey, Greg, while you're here, I actually apologize on Thursday because when you made that pick on the Tuesday show, I was like, somebody send help for Greg because apparently he's lost control.
He's tanking.
Yeah, boy.
Yeah, he's going for the first pick.
No, I'm not tanking.
Ches Reavie, 19,198 to move Greg's total to almost just a hair below 6.1 million. Patrick, you, Kyle, and Kyle M. You were in a Kyle sandwich this week. All had Gary Woodland. He earned 30,415. Kyle M goes to 9.66. Kyle Porter goes to 7.1, and you, Patrick, go to 6.7.
This is kind of just one of those scenarios when you're growing up when your mom tells you not to touch the hot stove, but you do it anyways.
Yeah.
You knew what was going to happen with Gary Woodland. I think he was third tee to green and dead last putting.
Yep.
So I deserve it. if anything else. I wish he would have just missed the cut, but like Greg said,
He should have.
I don't know. Like, I still got Finau. I'm glad, I said on the show on Tuesday, I really like him, but gonna wait. Rahm, gonna
save
wait
him for something. Something.
For what?
Save him for next
the Ryder Cup at this point. Yeah, panic mode. Definitely. Nothing's changed here. Full on panic.
When you're at a restaurant and the waitress or waiter puts down the plate and says, "Be careful, this is hot." Do you touch it or do you not?
Absolutely.
Greg?
I touch it.
Mark?
Touch it.
I touch it. Every time I did it like 2 nights ago. I just want to see how hot she thinks it is.
Exactly. That's Terry Woodland.
I thought you were going to say when, she asked you for your order, do you panic change? Which I know. I know people who do that, and it's really funny. I'm pretty committed.
Do you look ahead at the menu beforehand?
Never.
No.
Really?
No. Well, one of my tricks is I always look for the menu item with the name of the restaurant in it.
Because that's what they're known for.
Yeah. It's usually always. So if they have it, it makes it very easy. I just go with that, and it's rarely bad.
It makes so much sense why Greg once went into a Trader Joe's, looked around, couldn't figure anything out, just left.
The brand's important to me.
Sia Nejad missed the deadline for his pick and didn't. Which is the second or third time that has happened. So Sia Nejad retains all of his golfers, but earns $0 for this week. Mark, you and the fans were on Wyndham Clark, who actually rallied to earn you anything. Played well late on Friday, had a 13-foot birdie putt to make the cut. He turns it into $62,000, but it's not much.
Rick, if it wasn't for a pint-sized pain in the rear end, I would have won the week. And that's you, by the way. And the fact that you were looking at that, because I was watching the scoreboard too, going, "Oh, please make the cut." And I eventually just gave up because I went to dinner. Then I saw your tweet. I'm like, Rick is actually watching if my guy is going to make the cut on Friday.
Shot by shot. Yep, shot by shot.
Oh, that was brilliant. I actually spoke to Wyndham last night. They were heading out to a restaurant. I'm like, "Are you okay?" He goes, "Yeah, I'm fine. My shoulder's a bit sore." He said, "I made a practice swing and I could hear my shoulder click." But he goes, "It happens all the time, so I think I'm okay." So I'm like, "Well, cool, go play well tomorrow." And thankfully he did. So maybe I must find my pick for next week and tell him to go and play well on the weekend, please.
Yeah, there you go. Give him a little word of encouragement. Well, as pointed out, I did have Tony Finau. It was worth $1.38 million. So I'm up to 12.1. I'm still, Mark, it's still $2.5 million that I'm behind. I'm just trying to stay within arm's reach here.
It's more than $2.5 million, and you're well outside of arm's reach. You got a little going to go. So
2.7.
Yeah.
You're a Desi away.
At that $200,000, all of our guys in this league would have loved to have made $200,000 this week. At the paltry 30,000 and such, we've been cobbling together. It's been terrible.
200,000 is like a tie for 30th next week.
Yeah.
Big boy, $20 million purse, Wells Fargo Championship, which will be John Rahm doing everyone a favor by not showing up so someone else can win. Scotty Scheffler will not be there. So, wow, we are really going to get a new winner next week. Basically, everybody else is there, and we're going back to Quail Hollow. So,
what are the early one and done leans? Or are you keeping your cards close to your chest?
I can't tell you that.
I'm picking Rory.
Full panic mode.
I've already used him. I've already used him. Hold on, let me see if you've already used him, Mark. If you've used him, I've
not used Rory.
No, I'm thinking
of Rory before.
See, the pick, you have not used him yet, Mark.
No, I haven't. I save Rory for the Tour Championship every year.
No, it's not Rory.
Mark's going to use Cameron Young.
It's not Rory. There's a guy who you should play.
I know. Should I tell you who I'm going to play?
Yeah, just toy with us a little bit.
Yeah.
I'm playing Justin Thomas next week.
You're definitely playing Justin Thomas next week?
Maybe not.
This guy's good.
If I had Victor Hovland remaining, I would use him.
I've got him too, but no, I'm saving him. There's a major championship I've got him earmarked for.
All right.
Greg,
I've got a free $3.6 million for you if you use Victor.
Oh, all right. You think he's going to win?
Yeah.
I may as well.
What does Quail Hollow want from you?
You're gonna drive really
Great
well.
ball striking.
Be a great ball striker.
Yeah.
He's been phenomenal.
Yeah.
He's played here.
What do you think about Ricky?
Okay. Ricky's behind Rory. Ricky's had the best strokes gain numbers of anybody at Quail Hollow.
Yeah.
I just don't know if I don't know, man. Using Ricky at a Desi feels, I guess it's not that bad.
It feels like a way to get you back in it, Greg.
It feels like a lone wolf opportunity.
You'll definitely be the lone wolf.
Yeah. That's all I'm going for.
I do think he's going to play great. Like if we do our finishing positions, like Ricky top 10 might show up on my card next week.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, it's probably not the one and done play.
It's tough for one and done. He's been great, Mark. He's been great. He's crushed it at Quail Hollow.
Yeah, I know, and yeah, he's one of. I remember my pencil things I've actually got my book right here. In my book, my pencil writing. I have him listed down. There is an option.
There's some good options for next week.
Mark, just
it's
flash that
fun without
book
Rahm
open.
and Scheffler.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
We can't pick Rahm. We can't pick Scheffler. Who could possibly win?
Right. I mean, it's kind of cool. And you got questions about Rory. Haven't seen him since Masters, right? Mm-hmm. It's not, obviously you love when those guys are there, but it just really opens it up for picking, which is cool.
All right, gents. I think that's going to do it. We're going to let Mark get out of the country, get back in. And when do you fly back, Mark? Tonight or tomorrow?
6 a.m. flight tomorrow morning from Puerto Vallarta to Mexico City, and then I connect to Atlanta.
Mexico City had a baseball game that had like 15 home runs. Did you see this, Patrick?
The over-under was like 21 or something.
Yeah.
It's so far above. The ball goes forever up there.
It went over. Yeah, they're at like 6,000 feet of altitude or something.
Yeah, it's higher than Denver, right?
Yeah.
It's crazy.
All right, that'll do it. We'll be back next week, Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday for all your golf needs. But for now, big thanks to producer Josh. Does all the hard work behind the scenes. Patrick McDonald, available on Twitter at Amateur Status. Mark Immelman at Mark_Immelman. Greg DuCharme, the real GFD. And you can find me at Rick Run Good. This has been The First Cut. We'll catch you next time.